Kita dah lama tak jumpa.
Tu lah Ustaz kan.
Cantik janggut.
Tak ada barber tu lah Ustaz.
Kalau putih semua boleh jadi the center of Damansara.
Probably, right?
You need to work on the laugh. Yeah.
Ho ho ho.
Closer. How are you,
How
brother?
lah bro? How's things? Okay lah, macam itu je.
Dah berapa lama tak balik JB?
Ya, aku rasa dah 14 bulan kot.
What is it about JB yang you guys the place keep producing musicians after musicians?
I rasa masa kat Johor tu, I think it's about the community of people that's there. I think one good thing is like we're closer to Singapore, right? So there's a lot of different information and like gear or music shows and stuff that don't actually get played on back in the day. That's how old we are. Like that's also like 3 channels on Malaysian TV again. So I think that's one. And I mean in terms of music, in terms of like macam ni kita orang dapat macam dengar benda yang lain kan. Tapi I rasa community tu kan macam menarik lah. Because it was not about race, it was not about religion. It was just like like people like just respecting for who they are. It's in a community, Because at the end of the day, the place that is very memorable to you is what you call it, the people lah. Betul lah kan. Kalau katakan the surroundings, right? So I think in that sense, I think Johor had a very huge impact, which did. If you actually even look into the Singaporean musicians, oh man, they are like totally amazing. I mean, for example, if you look like you look at Sweet Charity, for example, right? Kalau dengar balik content Sweet Charity tu, lepas tu ketuk zaman tu dengan sound analog dengan Rosli Mohalim punya gitar dengan the arrangement. Let's say for example Penunggu or Kamalia is like it's crack lah, right? It's like whoa, it's like Deep Purple or something. And, like obviously, like also people tend to forget Man Kidal also comes from Singapore, right? Like and he has like a huge impact on a lot of bands, right? Besides with Search, with what you call it, was Left-Handed, and sebagainya. So like I think it's because of that flow of what you call it, information. So like for me, like say for example, that time when I go into the whole underground, so those times was actually really underground. There's this guy called Sohami Subandi from Singapore, right? So he started the whole skating thing. He started bringing hardcore. Like so, all these kids will just gather together, and it was actually basically because of the music. Then that created like a brotherhood, So like everywhere you went, kau boleh cakap bahasa Melayu or Malaysia, like you try to be as authentic as you can, and you just did it for the love of music, You get me? Right. So I think that's why you have a lot of like these amazing, like kids from Johor, like a lot of I'm not saying it because I'm from Johor, but you know what I mean, right? They have really amazing talents, so to speak. I mean, so basically how it started off was like, I think there were a lot of kids that were into music back in Johor, right? And people like, you usually meet these kids at jamming studios. So this has been Tun Razak, B-Sound, Gold Disc. And what happened was, at that time, it was something that's different. Like, when you started creating back in the day, you didn't want to sound like Search, right? You didn't want to sound like Left-Handed, right? You just wanted to sound something different, right? And this was the community that came out. So people started studying about punk rock, started studying about heavy metal, they started studying about, grindcore, like all these sub-genres, right? Because like, it was a very intellectual community, I would say. I'm not trying to blow my own horn or whatever, but like the topics about like capitalism was talked about, topics about like, humanity, like real actual topics, right? Before it became a fashion statement, right? Before that. So this is like, you're talking about like, at the days of like, Stomping Ground, like, I'm trying to think of the bands, like, Global Chaos, like really, like before Aru was actually coughing cancer, it was like, was it Nemesis, all that kind of stuff, right? So it's very intelligent to a certain extent. I think they were trying to get places to gig and stuff like that. And then after that, I think in the late 90s or early 2000s, it started going to like mainstream media. Like we got played on radio, we got played, but then after a while, it just became a fashion statement, lah, right? It was no longer about music per se, or I mean, I'm not saying there was no community, but it kind of diversified and became like its own machine. You get me? So I mean, until today, I'm still friends with Swami. I have a lot of very memorable, what you call it, memories. Like, talk about Bird Cassette. We will talk about, like, New York hardcore. What's the difference between, like, streetcore and ska music? I mean, basically stuff that people didn't want to really listen to, right? But at the same time, we had our full good dosage of, like, what was on the radio, lah, right? The Wings, the Search, the Flop Poppies that eventually came out, and stuff like that. Yeah.
For you, Rithan, how did it all start? You're from a family
Uh,
of musicians.
oh no, I'm not. I'm from like a Orthodox Indian family, lah, right?
Ah,
Where music is like was something I do for a pastime kind of thing. But my mother's side, my uncles and my aunties used to have like this. My uncle used to run this discotheque kind of thing. Like, he used to rent stuff, but And what they used to tell me is, when I was a kid, I used to listen to Eye of the Tiger. So when they put on Eye of the Tiger, I would be able to sleep, right? But I know I was always interested in music. I knew for a fact that I was always interested. It's like, I think my first love would be Michael Jackson. I mean, like that time I used to, because, like, I think at that particular time, because of it being very limited, like, there's only X amount of times that you can actually watch something. So when you actually watch it, the impact is like crack. Like, oh my god! Like, I remember, like, I'll freeze. I won't move. Because, like, shit. Even if I had to, like, not go to the bathroom, I won't. I mean, this was when I was a kid. And again, Singapore, because, like, when channel 8 or something will put, like, Jimi Hendrix live at the Montreal Jazz Festival, and it would be like at 1:00 in the morning. But I was like, whoa, I want to watch that. But it started off with Michael Jackson, but I always wanted to have, like, a heavy sound. I always was attracted to the guitar, right? Not classical guitar, not jazz guitar, not pop guitar. It was just, I knew I had this sound in my head, but I was just searching for it, And I'll take, like, badminton rackets and try and play guitar. I'll have my air guitar, and was that I think when I finally started, like, going to school, and, like, I'll tell my mom to bring me to the cassette shop, and then I will look at the most scariest design, like, that's how I got into, like, Maiden, Metallica, stuff like that. So, like, I always, to the moment, yeah, scary stuff. I think I can still tell you the first time when I finally knew, like, I think I was about 11 or 12, right? Again, I'm a huge Metallica fan, but I got into Metallica kind of late, in, like, when I didn't get to the first 3 albums or whatever, right? So I went down to the shop, and again, that these days you have to save up, And I mean, I'll either beg my mom for money or my auntie for money, or I'll save up my makan money and I'll go and buy something, either in the Pasar Malam or this auntie shop. So again, the ritual is to go to the shop, look into all the cassettes, and pick the scariest cover, right? And that particular time, the Black Album was this Black Album. I was like, "Phew, so it's like, it's all black, right?" So I picked it up. Then when I looked at it, the snake, the whole silver thing on the side, like, whoa, oh shit, I'll be 7 and at that time, like, battery was a problem, because you had your Walkmans and you didn't want to play it, so you would test it out. Like, you just try, because you're a kid. You want to tell people that you're listening to this kind of stuff, right? But the auntie was smart. The auntie was like, "Yeah, I can play it, like, on my shop. I'll give you some headphones, right?" And I remember listening to Enter Sandman now, right? So I was like, "Phew, what is this?" When the drums came in, I was like, "Phew, what is it?" And then immediately when the guitars came in, I was like, shit, like, what the, what is this? Like, I've never had this feeling before, So before this, obviously, I had, like, I was into Maiden, Creator, like, like your Phenomena Search kind of thing, Hukum Karma, like, those were, like, my playlist kind of thing, I mean, obviously, I didn't know about punk rock, all the kind of stuff yet, right? But when I heard Metallica's Black Album, I was like, shit, man, this is, like, uh, like I really like this kind of music, And then after that, dia punya kahwin kan time tu dengan Guns N' Roses, right?
Yeah.
You get me?
Yeah.
Right? So Guns N' Roses, so when I heard Guns N' Roses, like shit, this is even better, right? So today, if you see, I have this duality in music taste, right? I'm half blues man because I have a lot of influence from Slash, and I'm half metal man because I got a lot of influence from Kirk and James and stuff like that. You get me? So like that was it. So I will literally have my Walkman everywhere I go. I will like food or toys for me was the cassettes, and I'll put them on and like I'll shut the world out, and I will imagine I'll listen to the songs and blah blah. But I was always attracted to things that were heavy, things that were dark. I literally like I remember New Kids on the Block cover girl song, pasal there's this amazing guitar solo in front, right? Because I'll just go, oh my god, guitar solo, like I just enjoyed that. You get what I mean? So then after that, when I first heard Nirvana, like I think I was in my school bus, right? And I heard dang 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 dang. I was like, what the, like I need to know what this is, right? And so I bought that. So eventually at that time I still didn't understand punk rock, right? I was like, what is this? And you must understand, like saving up your money and not eating in school is a huge thing, because you got to buy a cassette, right? I remember really, really being blown away by Nevermind, and then I bought his second album, which was Insecticide. So this is a kid who didn't eat probably about 5 weeks or whatever, and is buying Insecticide. Tapi kali ni Insecticide wasn't an Andy Wallace mix, right? It wasn't like a huge, was that Geffen record or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It was something that he did with Steve Albini. He did like X amount of things. It was true to the nature of punk rock. Benda tu memang terabur, sound tak ada. And this is like a person who's like always wanting things to be like, yelah metal. Time tu kan macam dah masuk orchestra apa. So like it was very fine, right?
Yeah.
I remember crying in my house. Like literally I was like, oh shit lah, I spent so much money lagu benda ni kan tak sedap langsung shoot. Why? Because I didn't understand what punk rock at that time, right? But what cassettes, when you make an investment into a thing like that, the problem is what happens now, you have to force yourself
Just to like it, to listen.
Yes, right. So, and repetition is key, right? And you realize that everything else with jazz or whatever new form of music, you need to give it time to absorb, right? Kalau pasal tak kenal, maka tak cinta apa, right? Because kalau ketika sekali pandang orang tu, kita tak akan tahu orang tu punya soul dan sebagainya, right? Tapi but doing that, and then like Green Day came out, like Dookie came out, like then there was like Stone Temple Pilots, it was a huge time bomb, because at that time everybody, because I remember walking to the jamming studio and looking at Steve Vai, who's one of my favorite guitar players in the world. When I was 13 years old or 14 years old, looking at him, saying, I'll never be a guitar player like that. Why is he having a pink colored guitar, and why is he wearing a red spandex? Oh my god, he looks like a girl. 15 years later, things would have changed dramatically. By that particular time, I was like, I do like this kind of stuff. You know what I'm trying to say? So at that time, when I finally understood, I said, oh shit, I get it. It's supposed to be raw. It's supposed to be real. It's supposed to be authentic. There's no makeup. This is what it is. And now you actually see the world becoming punk rock, right? Because the more you try and veil stuff and try and, again, I'm not saying there's no entertainment. There is a huge entertainment business out there, right? But in reality, that's why you have kids having all these sub pockets of 15 million views, 30 million views, or 2 million views, or whatever, right? Because the distribution is there. Time masa kita orang tu memang, so there's good and bad. The good is you might lose out on really good content because it's everywhere, right? But in terms of visibility now, it's crazy, man. But so that's basically how it started off for me. Until today, I'm still that guy. I'm still looking at guitars and being in forums. I just love it. But the Black album was the one that made me go crazy. I was like, shit, man, I need to know. So one of my, I stole my uncle's capo guitar or whatsoever, right? And what happened was I begged my mom to buy, the capos that you have in the sports shops, right? Dude, back in the day, for me to go to that shop, you have to walk this top hill, right? And I remember walking to right now when I'm talking to you, I can still remember the shop and where the guitar was. Like, it was in Singapore, it's brown color Singapore. But to me, man, it was the best thing ever. Like, my mom bought it, and like, and he had this plywood smell in it. The strings after you play will make your hands go green and stuff like that. But that was the best thing ever, bro. Like, I was like, my God, I've got a couple of guitars, dude. I can take on the world now. I think so. That's where it started, right? And then one of my good friends from Singapore came down, and because obviously, like, we didn't have any music lessons at that particular time, right? We didn't know about tuners. Like, I come from a very humble beginning, so like we didn't have like a set player at home. Right, so I only had my Walkman, that's sebagainya, right? So when he came over, and then he brought over like a songbook which had tablature. Okay, so I remember the tablature was, I think, Metallica or something like that, right? So he comes up, so he's back in Singapore. He comes and sees me. He's like, bro, I know it. I know how to do it now. I say, what do you mean? So check this out, man. Blah blah. So all this while, when I had the capo, it was tuned wrongly. Like, I was making up my own chords. Like, I couldn't do shit with it, right? So when I got that book, I said, "Do you see these numbers?" I was like, "Yes, these are where you put your hands on." And eventually, said, "Oh my God, shit!" And then I became frantic, lah. Like, all I wanted to do was just play guitar. I swear to God, I could play the entire Master of Puppets. I could have played the entire Enter Sandman. I could solo, and my fingers would bleed, right? But I will be the happiest dude in the world because tablature can help me, right? So from reading music and stuff like that, right? And then after, and bro, that's the thing. I think there's a lot of things I'm very grateful for. So like at that particular time, kan kau tahu mana nak mampu nak beli gitar apa semua, tapi kawan-kawan ada, sahabat, and this is Johor, and this is the people, right? So I'll have my friend Rahman, and Rahman ni keluarga dia ada barang-barang untuk peduli kahwin. Kan? So dia cakap, canopy, ada instrumen apa semua, kan? So dia dengan aku cadet askar, kan? So dia cakap aku, "Allah, kau main gitar terror, kau tak pernah main gitar elektrik." Tak pernah, bro, tak pernah, kan? Tak apa, nanti kau tahu rumah aku pinjam kau gitar elektrik. You're like, huh? What do you mean, pinjam gitar elektrik? Yes, like, of course, bring the guitar electric over, right? And then I used to have one of my friends, he's passed on, God bless his soul. His name was Saleh. So obviously, like, I'm cadet, I'm playing, and like, I'm getting like a small following in school. I'm like the popular guy, like, Rithan's the Metallica guy. And then he's like, so asal gitar elektrik, gitar ni tak ada bunyi distortion? Dia cakap, ya, aku kena beli kotak tu, kotak tu kan. Cakap, as well tu kan. And Saleh came from a very well-to-do family. He said, then aku akan belikan kau satu DS1. Lu bayangkan time tu kan.
Kenapa dia baik
DS1 tu aku rasa, tak, I remember what he used. I mean, this is in bus stand JB dah tak ada tu. Dia cakap aku macam ni, dia cakap macam, nanti satu hari kalau kau dah famous, kau jangan lupakan aku, bro. I still remember that, man. I swear, I'm not making this up. This is, I swear, God bless his soul. My friends also will, like, remember that particular conversation. So it's like, even for as a kid, the people around me, even though the things just came to me. You get what I mean? There was someone passing me a guitar. There was like, there was someone buying me a distortion pedal. Obviously, I had a very supportive auntie and uncle as well. You get what I mean? So like, so I think later on in my age, that's when I started playing, like really knowing that, I mean, I should have listened to my mom and studied and become a doctor or whatever, but it was very strong. At that time, it was like, oh my God, all I wanted to do was just like, play guitar.
So you got this electric guitar from pinjam from Rahmat, and you were like what, 16, 17?
16, yeah. I had it for a couple of months, and then
what guitar was it?
It was an Aria Pro.
Okay.
Yeah, it was actually a really good guitar, and even the DS1 that I had that particular time was like the DS1 with the silver screw instead of the black screw. So it was like really better chips and stuff like that. Obviously, I didn't know all about this then, but man, it was crazy. It was crazy at the time.
And Saleh bought for you the distortion, the kotak thing.
Yes, he bought us our first distortion. Yeah, he would. So what would happen is after school, we will gather like probably about 10 guys. So here's the thing, right? So we needed to jam. Like, I was desperately needing to jam. I was like, no, I'll try and find people and stuff like that. Then eventually we finally form a group, right? So like this group was, at first we were called Sensitive Rage, right? So, these were like 14, 15. After school, we'll gather about 8 people, right? Or to 8 to 16 people, depending on how big the crowd is. Everyone had to pay $1, right? And we'll all go into this jamming group and we'll start playing all our favorite songs, right? Literally after school. Because sometimes when I think about it, macam mana aku mampu nak jamming time tu? Satu jam tu RM12 contoh kan. Lepas tu dengan, and we were manjat by the abang-abang jamming apa semua. Dia orang, dah dah sampai, blah, blah. And then we will sit down. I will literally go to after school, I'll sit at the jamming place, right? This is like a 14-year-old return or a 15-year-old return, right? No money, just enough money to go back home, right? I will sit there and I'll wait for people to come to jam, And most of the time, the people that come to jam is probably like, I sounded better than them or could play better than them or whatsoever. Eventually, I'll just be with them. I'll just be jamming with like these complete strangers in this shopping complex, right? Filled with older people in my school uniform. I think I'm just obsessed. I think like in a very young age, I just was very, very attracted to something, right? Look, right, success can be a lot of stuff, right? Popularity, money you earn and stuff like that. But I think if everybody knew what they wanted to do, right, life won't be so complicated. You get me? Because a lot of people think what is right to do, right? Get a job, become a lawyer, become a blah blah. But you're gonna suck at it because you're not interested in it. You're just following some kind of wild, mantra. Because the successful people in a third world country usually are successful that way. Like obviously, when you have an MCO, you're the first ones to like, oh shit, let's just start jamming at home or whatever. But that's beside the point, right? The point is like, I think kalau orang tu betul-betul minat dengan apa dia nak buat, betul proper support is given, right? Benda tu akan menyelah, right?
Yeah.
But not a lot of people actually get to find it. That's the problem.
For me, till now, I still don't know what I'm supposed to do with my life, what I want to do. And
but your love for music.
You knew back then you loved to play the guitar or music, and you wanted to be that.
Yes, I always wanted to play guitar. That's true. Until today. Like before talking to you, so I was in Jam Tank looking at all this other second-hand gear that I don't need and stuff like that. It's just something that tapi minat too, just like again, like the underground scene, right? It's like it's not about trying to making money out of it, or it's just like it's this community of people really enjoy what we do. We might not resonate with a lot of people in community in different parts of the demographics, but these people enjoy what they do, lah.
Yeah. So you think yourself as a musician or a guitarist?
Man, I still think like a guitarist, lah, bro. I mean, I'll be honest with you, because later on, I feel I'm a musician. I mean, that's like a very high title, but like the reason why I still feel like I'm a guitarist pasal benda tu yang buat aku turn on. You get me? Yeah. If there's some distorted guitar, some guy playing a riff that's really nice, if it's heavy, or if it's heavy guitars mixed with traditional music, if it's guitars mixed with jazz music, I will eventually fall in love with it. You get me? But a musician is also a guy that goes like, I can listen to the trumpet the whole day, or I can listen to the violin the whole day. I can, right? But my tolerance level is not as high as somebody else. I'll be like, no, I need to get that my fix. You get me? So I think I'm a guitarist. My drummer says this well. My drummer one day just told me like, bro, guitar ni hidup kau. Itu je, kau minat gitar je. And after a while, I kind of realized it's true, right? Because like people think about money, people think about empires, like like I'm still that 16-year-old so that didn't grow up lah. I'm like, shit, man, like, yeah, I like the guitar. So what happened was, so I was the confused kid, right? So Nirvana was my gateway into punk rock, right? Insecticide comes in. That's when you start learning about your Fugazis, your Sex Pistols, and stuff like that, right? But I was still a metal guy at heart. And my friends, people in my age group, were all into punk rock. You get me? So I was like the tepu flair. Ni tepu dah sampai ni, jet. Because like I was still into that until today, right? I mean, until today, I don't give a shit. I'm like, I like that kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? So that it took me some time to understand because like okay, it was very hard for me to understand benda yang timing tak betul lah, recording yang lo-fi lah, and pasal that time kau recording, kau dengar semua, yelah macam you cakap, Maiden kan, sedap, your bass dengar, apa dengar, mungkin gitar, kau Metallica, semua dengar kan. You get me? Sekejap lagi kau dapat satu demo Youth of Today, dia buat tempat jamming kan, tapi kau macam apa benda ni kan. You get me? Like how do I sorry how do I understand this? You get me? So there's so it took some time, but because of the community that I was hanging around with, right? Because suddenly as a kid, you're like, you know, you're 15 years old, and like, you know, people, guys who are like 19 years old with, you know, punk rock, mohawk, you know, leather jacket, and orang, you're like, "Fool, this is damn cool, lah." You get me? And the older guys, you know, are the ones that listen to Slayer and stuff like that, and they always like, "Tak cool lah." Masa time tu dia pakai suara ketat apa semua kan. So kau cakap, tak boleh ni kan. Aku kena kerjaya tak jadi cool kan. So after and my education, because I had to learn the songs, because I was wanting a band, right? So tak kisah lagu punk rock ke lagu apa, lagu Ramo, semua aku belajar kan.
So after
so after that I said, oh shit, you know, like, but I was always the metal guy lah. I was always the guitarist, right? I will go and, like, you know, paksa my mom to buy me a Jimi Hendrix best of. You know, I still remember, like, you know, my mom was bringing me to Singapore, right? So there's this shopping complex called Komta. And when you go inside Komta, and second floor, there's this shop, right? And I read from Guitar World, like, you know, Jimi Hendrix was the best guitar player in the world, kind of thing, or whatever, right? So I was like, shit, man, I gotta listen to this song, right? So I pleaded my mom. My mom said, fine, I'll buy you whatever you want. So she bought the cassette. And so we are taking this bus. The bus called 170. It's one from JB to Singapore. So that's when I closed that, right? Bro, that's the best when I heard Hey Joe, I heard Voodoo Child. Aku cakap, apa benda ni, Sud? Asal gitar ni macam dia tak bising. Obviously, like, for whatever I was listening, it was okay, right? So apa tu dengan, and I just remember like just falling in love with that style of playing as well. You get me? Understanding like where it came from, and so I was always searching from. And also I got to thank Kirk Emmett a lot for this, because time masa Mexico live video tu, masa gitar solo tu, dia bawa lagu Little Wing Jimi Hendrix untuk masa solo part dia kan. So masa gua dengar tu, gua cakap, full lagu apa ni kan, tak pernah dengar kan. So I always wanted to start kajing about Jimi Hendrix, right? So Little Wing was my gateway masa dengar. So like you know, like Kirk yang best masa dengar metal ni, dia ada musicianship kan. It's not just bantai je all the time, or like, you know, it's. So that's how, like, you know, I got torn in between, like, you know, like the musician guy, and also the guy who just wanted to just play the starter guitar every day. So okay, so here's the part about Jimmy, right? Okay, so to me lah, at least my 2 cents were right. So Jimmy actually, right, is I think sometimes celebrated for the wrong reasons. Meaning Jimmy was actually not like a guitar soloist or whatsoever, right? Most for the core wise is Jimmy was a good rhythm player, right? So if you take a song like Hey Joe with a 10 chorus, that chorus has never been repeated, and maknanya dia ada je dia punya feeling kan. And you get me? So and for me, being a metal guy, I could respect and love him, but I could not groove with him. You know why? Pasal benda tu, he had the roll 8s. I'm the ta 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 ta, right? He's like da-da-dum. Benda tu macam is like mazhab yang lain, right? But I could appreciate it because as a metal guy, you're like, okay, this is the riff. Remember this? It's got 4 parts. Okay, let's go, right? You repeat it. But when Hendrix was playing Hey Joe or Little Wing, there was no repetition on C, G, D, A minor, E, right? He was always having that, blues thing that he had, where he learned from Little Richard and Howlin' Wolf and stuff like that, where they played the chord tones and they always colored it, right? And that always, I remember telling myself as a kid, like, itu sampai mati pun tak boleh main macam gini kan, macam mana nak main macam gini, macam mana kau nak ingat? The reason why is because he's actually thinking about everything. So the rhythm playing, the orchestrating part, the arranging, he's always thinking about the notes, right? Also Hendrix, but my biggest education with Hendrix is actually the gear, right? The sound, the use of wah, the use of flanger on a drum set, recording, blah blah blah. He opened up a lot of guitar players' minds. Says, oh shit, you can do this, you can do this, you can do that. You get me? And I remember seeing people play Hendrix, and I'll get so sad. It's like, aku takkan boleh main macam gini. It's like it's too hard. The person that brought me into his realm, that made it even accessible, was Stevie Ray Vaughan. Pasal Stevie Ray, dia direct, kan? Dia ta, kan? Masa aku dengar, alhamdulillah, finally lah, a guru that can give me a feeder to be in that realm, right? Because Stevie played it much more predictably. I mean, I'm not saying it's not, I mean, like, nampak lah notes tu jatuh dan sebagainya, right? And that was it. So then I started listening to Kenny Wayne Shepherd. I started listening to, and then slowly, I faham, macam gini, macam mana nak lay back, right? I still have that problem until today, right? Because like metal is to push and you don't lay back. Even you can, but like the Maidens of the world, they're like, no, they push, right? When you want to go into the blues territory, when you go into the pop territory, you relax, right? So you're like, shit. And there are a lot of problems there, right? Because they mazhab lain, right? You come into a jamming studio and you're like, I gotta be loud as shit because you're gonna hear my E chord, right? And people are like, what? Like we balance everyone here. It's like, so I mean, again, I learned a lot from the records, but back in the day, right? And I miss those times, right? Because the accessibility of music being distributed on YouTube, on Facebook, and stuff like that has made us less appreciative, right? And I'm no physicist or acoustician or whatever. There is something to do with tape. There is something to do with vinyls and the saturation and stuff. It actually enhances you to listen to it more. Yeah. You get me? But, because and to me, like ever since the whole Spotify thing happened, and I mean, I'm an advocate. I do listen to music, but I don't listen to how I used to listen to it back in the day. You get me? If you could ever talk to my mom, I will be watching the same thing or listening to something for about 8 hours, 12 hours, right? When I bought cassettes that I didn't understand, I could still listen to it. Now, I feel masa dengan Spotify, for me, I rasa fatigue, right? I feel like, and I think it's a digital thing. You get me? It's a good song. A good song. It's always a good song. But in terms of, in makanan point of view, it's like, having too much sweet chocolate after a while.
Okay.
But itu macam perfect sangat kan.
Okay.
Nothing beats like a proper nasi kandar lah, right? Like the imperfections. Sorry, let me give a better example. It's like drinking orange cordial every day. You can beautify it, put it in a nice glass, cut a piece of orange, put some pulps in it, put orange looking ice cubes or whatever. You'll be fascinated. Oh my God, look at that, right? And you take 2 gulps, 3 gulps, like, manis gila ni benda ni. Okay, tak tahu. You get me? But versus getting real fresh orange, like peeled up pulp, dia apa semua masuk, right? Again, because I do not have the right terminology, nor did I study the subject enough to let you know whether there is a differences in quality. Because ikut kan semua dia okay, pasal dia beat rate apa, kan? Benda tu besar apa, kan? But I'm talking about my experience, my personal experience. You get me? When I'm put into a situation where I'm listening to vinyl, I was such a fool. And so I'll tell you another story, right? So why am I emphasizing on this? I went to one of my friend's wedding in Terengganu, right? We had to drive. Member aku ni time tu dia ada kereta Wira. Kereta Wira dia ada cassette player. Ui, aku cakap macam 8 tahun 9 tahun dulu kan. So waktu tu aku ni when I was introduced to jazz and stuff like that, it always came from the CD medium. It was never someone passing me a cassette or whatever. So aku tak pernah terpengaruh. At that time, and I remember like with Chick Corea lah, because I was studying at jazz school, right? Okay. So I'm like, why these guys always wanting to change the chord, rehab lah, tension, but ini tension. The root and fifth, dah, cukup, best, dah. I'm just too complicated for me. But the right was wrong, and then he played some Latin music. I swear to God, I was like, sedap sel benda ni kan. What is this? I thought I hated this kind of vibes, right? Then he struck me, said, pasal benda tu tak kasar. Pasal benda tu macam there's some kind of saturation that makes it feel real. Maybe because I'm used to consuming music that way, right? So yelah, because it makes sense, bro. As a 9-year-old to a 18-year-old or a 21-year-old, 24, I was just consuming music using cassettes and CDs to a certain extent, right? So I was used to that behavior, though, right? And suddenly when you put me in a behavior where I got to go to a computer lah, tekan lah, pasal kau tahu lah, orang yang dengar earphone ni dia macam cerewet sikit pasal sound dia macam mantap kan. You open up open space, tak cukup bass and so on. You get me? So to me, it was an experience, right? It was really, because it's the same thing with guitar playing, right? When I first started out, I was blown away by digital technology, right? I was like, wow, like, wow, look at the port line 6. This is it, man. I can afford this. I can have 15 amps, yeah, right? And then I was blessed enough to be able to mix around with all this, otai guitar players, and they will kutuk you benda ni, kau ni pakai digital bunyi macam nyamuk lah, blah blah. And I was like, I don't get you, man. Like, this is so simple. Dah boleh main dah. Tak, benda tu tak sampai. I'm like, benda ni bang sama je abang ni. So, but one day I lost my digital thing. I lost the port 1.0, right? I could never go back. After when I learned how to use an amplifier, I was like, oh shit, man, all these old flares were correct. This is where it comes from. So the addiction is this, again, like it's makanan, right? If every day you're eating McDonald's and one day you can know on proper bread, proper patty, you're like, whoa, what is up? You get me? So it was a journey for me. It was a huge journey for me.
We won't talk about Steve Vai yet. Tapi did you get to hang out with macam Man Kidal, Arwah Samad, even Nan Alia?
Yeah.
Other guitarists?
I was a nerd. Bangat. I was a nerd. I mean, the day my mom told me that I could like do music and stuff like that, I knew Sham Kamikaze before Sham Kamikaze became Sham Kamikaze. Right?
How?
I will go out. I'm like, I need to find this guy. This guy's the cat. Like, and then I remember. Have you heard of Paul Ponadore?
Yeah.
I was like, I was already in places checking these people out, and obviously Man Kidal is like a legend. It's like every kid wants a guitar player. My time wanted to be a Man Kidal or whatever, right? Someone, and I was lucky because when I came to music school, then with the band again, like. To just bridge a bit, started main guitar, jumpa Mama, and Mama was very supportive. Like, I swear to God, the first time when I met these people, like, aku just starstruck. Like, when I saw Samad, or like until today, when I see kids search, I still go like, fuck, it's kids search, because it's like it's like your childhood guitar heroes, right? You get me?
It's
Like
true.
when I had a chance to see Joe Wings, like when I got a chance to see Joe Wings, play with Joe Wings, and find I mean, I won't call it a friend because he's still like a legendary status kind of person, right? I told him, like, "Ba, abang tahu tak, masa abang keluar apa nama movie Putra tu, saya paksa mak saya pergi Pawagam, saya nak tengok movie tu. But you know why I wanted to watch it? Because it had guitars in it, right? You get me? Like I was like, whoa, I would, because that's my only limitation of knowledge. You get me? So like today, kalau aku jumpa aku macam food, ini gila. Sure. Like like until today, I'm hoping to one day meet OP. Have you heard of the guitar player
Yes.
called OP?
Yeah. Bloodshed.
Oh man. Like he's worked for Belungu Irama. His guitar work. Oh my god, dengan recording. Because there was he played on that. Please don't. He played on Belungu Irama, right? I'm not supposed to say that. I'm sorry. I don't know.
I don't know.
No, but through my research, she's the one who played it. And Belungu Irama was a very important album for me as well because like I grew up with the cassette as well, right? Like Malay rock has been a very important diet in my music career, music life or whatever. You get me? So I was always the odd Indian dude, lah. You get me? Like in a Malay concert or in a like. Like sometimes even today kalau aku jumpa Amy, so aku macam fuh. Amy search gila. You know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah, I understand. Perfectly.
It's like remember the MACP thing that we did together? Masa kat Seremban tu.
Yeah, dekat Port-Dickson. Yeah.
Yes, like when I look at M. Nasir, I'm like, phew. Like all these melodies I like came from this guy. And then again, like what you said, right? You become someone totally different, right? You're like, macam mana aku nak berbual ni? Like she knows everything. Like, and I remember like when I saw him and I was sitting there, I was like, I had to ask him. I was like, did you really sing the solo for Isabella? And he was like, yes, I did. I was like, OG right there. You know what I'm trying to say? You get me? You get me? And you just look at it's like oh man, it's crazy. Like the journey. So yes, I was always in, and also I was always interested in the players that were not lesser known as well, right? Gotcha. So I was a huge fan of Locke, right? Locke from Butterfingers, right? When he came up, I mean, until today when I see Locke, it's like full Locke, because like I really respect his artistry and his yeah, like I like was that Jack from Sputum, like he plays for Temperamental, now he plays for Naked Butterfly and stuff like that. Jack was a guitar player at that time, like had a 7-string, did a whammy pedal. You're like, benda ni gila babi siap mama ni, you know, like. So there was a very healthy, like, even was that Meng from Love Me Butch? Like, like Meng from Love Me Butch, like different tuning lah, but there's some kind of organized, like punk rock in it. You know what I'm trying to say? So I was always into guitar. So to your point, yes, I was always searching for them. You get me? I was always checking out. Din from Bonfire. Remember Din? Musa's dad.
That I don't know. I Bonfire, yeah.
Yeah, so we would go and then they would bring us on stage, they let us jam. Like, and jamming was like the most like sacred thing. Like I would be scared to go up because I always wanted to make sure that my performance was perfect or whatever. Like, because like I was really scared and stuff and that. So yeah, bro. I knew these people. I mean, before they became who they became, also like always searching for that kind of characters. Yeah. I came to Kuala Lumpur to further my studies. I was supposed to do a electromechanical engineering diploma.
Okay.
Right, which when during lectures was going on, I was actually drawing guitars and dreaming of a life on stage. And then I think I'm not sure whether it was a year or whatever. Like there was a music college, International College of Music. They had a foundation program. And I finally like told my mom, like, you know what, I think I just want to do this, And that was when, like, that's when I think I had my experience of different kind of music and different genres and stuff like that. So eventually I did instead of finishing that thing, I went and studied that.
What kind of music you ventured into?
Oh, a lot of stuff. So my experience when ICOM made me meet a lot of people like me. Nerds like me, that's when, like, okay, so one person that's very important in my journey was this guy called Hari. Hari was very close to the Soloanyo family. That's how he knew Sham Kamikaze in what you call it, back in the day. You're talking about 99 or so, whatsoever. Right? And I, at 98 or 99 or 2000 or whatever year it was, I was a staunch metalhead, right? Anything that is not metal is garbage, right? I hated 80s metal. Like, I was like that kind of guy. I was like, no girls in my playlist or something like. I'm joking, but you know what I mean, right? So he was the one that introduced me to Steve Vai. He was the one that introduced me to Stevie Ray Vaughan, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, and at that time I was like, what is this? Like, like, why is this guy just soloing and soloing? Because, like, we were from the anti-guitar hero generation, right? Like, don't solo. Because that's, and even the guys who solo had some kind of attitude, like the Slashes and the Gabbets, right? It was not like it was the whole entire thing, right? So he was very important because he had all the CDs and stuff like that, and like he just made me like go berserk. Like, shit, like, I didn't get it, but then again, I was attracted to it, right? Because I was like the riff guy and not so powerful in school. I was like, hey, what happened? Like, everywhere I go, like, like, people like what I do. Like, here, like, nobody notices me, man. Like, what the fuck? Like, what's the C major 7? And then, so because of my love for Hendrix, and I started getting into Stevie Ray Vaughan, then I heard Alien Loves Secret. So I'm jumping the gun. I'm just going to go to Steve Vai because it's very important, right? Right, it's like, but I still didn't get the album. The only song that blew my mind away was Tender Surrender and Boy from Seattle, right? Because two of these tracks had a lot of Hendrix, a lot of blues in it, and it just resonated. And every time he went off scale, I'll just zone out. Like, when the first few times when I listened to it, right? Then in year 2000, Anafi Imam, when I was in first floor, he came up. He's like, hey, I heard you're into the blues and sebagainya. Would you like to go for the Renta Asia sound check? So I was like, what do you mean? She said, yeah, I give you this pass, you can go check out the sound check and blah, blah, and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, but Steve Vai's there. And I was like, yeah, it was. And then he's like, yeah, so take this pass, go there. So I knew was that as in college, that if I were to, go alone and tell all my guy friends tomorrow I saw Steve Vai here, everyone will hate me lah. Okay, all right. What I did was I was like, I had one of my good friends, is an amazing guitar player. His name is Salfi. He had a kancil. So I said, P, aku dapat pas ni, P, ni pas ni, B. Pakai jalin ni, backstage ni, B. Berapa kau dapat? Satu je, B. Macam mana? Tak apa. Kita get crash. Lepas tu aku tengok, macam mana? Tapi kena bawa As juga. As is Somerset Sun, right? He was my batch as well. Kena bawa As juga. Ini P kan, kau tak bawa As mesti merajuk. Ni kita ni Steve Vai ni, kena pergi. Then there's another guy called Zen. Tapi kena ajak Zen juga ni.
Ya Allah.
Then Sophie looks at me, Ten, kau gila ke apa? Kita ada satu pas je ni. Tak, aku rasa kita yakin. Boleh. Aku ada plan. Then last but not least, Eugene Lam, another friend of ours. So all these guitar players, I think there was 6 or 7 of us, got into Sophie's Kancil, and we drove to Bukit Jalil, right? So me being a gig goer and like playing gigs and stuff like that, I always knew like, I'm not going to share with you how to get into Bukit Jalil Stadium, but there's ways, there's means and stuff like that. So I brought this guy to the spot that I knew in the stadium how you could go in. So the idea was I go in first, right? Check where, then I'll pass you the pass. So eventually, like, with one pass, 7 people are behind the G3 concert. Like, this is crazy, man. Like, we're going to see Steve Vai, blah, blah. Like, and that is when my mind was blown. Because, to be very honest with you, I didn't understand his songwriting. I didn't understand his harmony. I didn't understand his melodies. When I used to listen to it, it just sounded like this noise. Like, I didn't know where the verse was. I didn't know where the fill was. But when I saw him live, when I saw his tone, and I remember him, doing Frank's part where he plays the bard. I'm like, what the fuck? Did this guy just do like 7 octaves? And then I'm like, oh my god, this is crack. This is like, I swear, that penangan tu made me, I mean, sometimes I regret it, made me become a very like, I want to be a guitar player, I don't care anything else. Because it was too great. And then I was on stage, and then I'm like carrying my guitar because I'm like, I want to get my guitar signed out with Steve Vai. Suddenly I'm this huge Steve Vai fan. Just went, man, thank God, time tu ada transcribe lagu Boy from Seattle apa semua tau, tengah belajar. So I'm like, yes, Steve. Because obviously I don't know anything about him at this particular moment, like really well, right? I only know a couple of songs for the love of God. No, I'm not like how well now, right? And I'm like, yeah, bro, I'm practicing Boy from Seattle. And then this is what he does. Play it for me. On stage with everybody there. He's like, play it for me. I'm like, huh? And then like, no, my guitar player friends like, 80% of them like, we're like, oh my God, I'm so jealous. Another 30% of them, or 20% of them is like, I hope you fail and you die. Like that kind of moment, right? And I just pick up my guitar and I start playing, and he's going like, yeah, man, yeah. I'm like, oh my God, Steve Vai is actually saying, yeah, like, And then what happened is, like, since we only, like, this is like 7 guys on stage at Asia, the securities come, they're like, hey, like, hey, you guys, like, I'm like, oh man, what the fuck? So obviously they chased all these kids, these 19-year-old kids down and blah, blah. But that was actually the first time I actually played in front of him. That was the first time, and I stayed up time tu ada jumpa Eric Sardinas lah, jumpa Derek Trucks lah, kan.
So you get to chill with all of them after show with Vai, Steve Vai?
In a very awkward way. Right? So like, because again, we were not invited. We were just gate crashing it. One thing. When I was a kid, I will go for every sound check. That is why Hanafi remembered that, right? I'll go for every, remembered that. That is why he passed me that pass. Because I was always interested on knowing what happened live, even as a kid. I will listen to my favorite Maiden tracks, but I'll be even excited when I hear it live. You get me? So I will love to go for sound checks. I'll love to, because I think that's when you really see what they're capable of. You get me? Okay, so that was mind-blowing. So that was when I came back and I started becoming this new person. I was practicing. I was suddenly very interested in theory. I was interested in, and a lot of people do not appreciate Steve Vai for what he's supposed to be appreciated, I feel, right? Because a lot of people go like, oh yeah, this guy wanks off, like, tak ada feeling, or dia ada 7 tali, like whatever, like, yeah, great. But his approach to guitar playing is actually a songwriter, film scorer approach. Why? Because his blues tonality is not very strong compared to his guru. I mean, not all of us. I mean, I'm just talking like don't quote unquote me. He's just talking as a friend here, right? Okay, as a friend here. So he managed, because of his influence with Frank Zappa, made him into a really amazing composer. Actually, you get me? That is why it's not easy for the ears. He's using a lot of tensions, using a lot of techniques, right? He's exploring the guitar, right? You get me? And he's also a really good businessman. I mean, he is a really good DIY person, because you must see, and Steve Vai has a lot of punk rock in him. Why? Because he deliberately did a passion in warfare, right? He became successful. He recorded everything from scratch. He learned how to produce, right? So because of his love of guitar, that's why he got the sound he wanted to get. But it was not something that the traditional guitar players could. I mean, you can't expect a guy who likes Gary Moore to appreciate Steve Vai. You get me? But you can get someone who is a little bit more exciting, who's looking to break the boundaries, right? In a rock way, then you can start appreciating. Because Steve is very important, because he started off the whole Korn movement, right? Without him, there won't be new metal, because he was it created the 7th string, right, for the kids to actually finally play, right? He was at to a certain level, brought in a lot of changes to the guitar. I mean, again, when we look at a Les Paul, Gibson Les Paul, ramai yang lupa yang bawa Gibson Les Paul tu sebenarnya custom, signature series Les Paul, kan? Sama macam Steve Vai Jam, right? Kenapa dia jadi Les Paul custom is because Les Paul yang bawa the changes into the guitar, right? The whole humbucker pickups, the entire thing, right? What Steve bought to the Ibanez, a lot of people miss out, is he bought the best of both worlds: the Fender Stratocaster, the Super Strat, and also the Gibson guitar, right? And he brought in the Jam was the sports car, right? It had the slim neck, it had the 24 frets, it had a humbucker to go for the Gibson. It had a second pickup to do the whole Fender thing. It had a wang bar that can go up and down, right? It was thin. You look flashy on it. But a lot of purists wanted a Fender tone. If you wanted a Fender tone, belilah Fender.
Yeah.
And tapi kalau macam you get me. Tapi kalau katakan you wanna drive a Ferrari, you cannot bring your entire family. You only can bring yourself alone, right? You get me. Minyak tu akan tinggi. So you will lose out certain characteristics, right? But he innovated that instrument to be a really, really versatile instrument. You get me? So again, at that particular time I didn't get it. I was blinded after that encounter, right? After that backstage experience, I was like, oh my God, this is what I really want to explore, right? So then when years of studying and looking for the crafts, like, oh, ni yang dia bawa pada gitar industri ni. Orang tak faham. Because if he didn't do the handle, right, dia akan nampak macam semua RG lain. That is why Ibanez is still paying royalty for the rock guitar, because it's his DNA, so to speak. You get me? So and also he's also an engineer, right? That means he can talk to you about the LA2A. He can talk to you about the 1073, the APIs, because he needed to be an engineer, because benda tu tak ada orang buat lagi, kan? Right? Because it was odd time signature. He was playing in different octaves using the harmonizer. He brought that, and he also had philosophy, which I got a lot from it. Right? Yes, when in terms of practicing, he says and he puts it in a very philosophical way. It says kids today have a lot of distraction, right? Think about it, right? I was attracted to the guitar because the guitar was my only form of entertainment, right? Today, being a dad and having a daughter or whatsoever, when I look around, I'm like, but there's a lot of distractions, right? The biggest distraction is what? It's the phone, right? Because it's the phone to call you explore. There's so many things you can do with the phone. It gives you entertainment, it's a form of addiction. But back then tak ada. And so kau terpaksa lah main gitar, and you terpaksa lah imagine, but it was fun, right? But when I read his article, that he said when you are distracted, the best article is, right, he was saying every now and then a guy might get sexually, which call it enhanced or whatever. In order for me to keep on practicing, I will go and relieve myself and then come back to practice. You know what I mean? So I was like, my God, what kind of craziness is this? But the person is really attracted to the thing. You get me? So there's a lot of things that, and again, for his first record, Flexible, every time he opened 50, right? Because he signed the biggest, copyright deal with them, When he released Flexible, right?
Okay.
His first record, with Sony, Sony gave him a 240 payout per CD sold. Because think about it, right? The guy who was actually signing him just probably going to put him in a weird catalog. This is not going to go anywhere. It's probably going to die off in 2 years. Until today, every record that sold in Flexible, he sold about 400,000 copies with Flexible, right? Back in the day, right? And to get 250 per CD or per vinyl back in the day, it's a lot of money, man. You get me? So there's a lot of things I learned from Steve Vai. Because yang masalah yang kita lain lah. Contoh macam kalau katakan daripada segi panduan hidup, panduan nak belajar gitar, macam Slash dengan Kirk Hammett, diorang lifestyle je, kan. Mana diorang ada berbual macam gini cara aku dapat tone dan sebagainya, tak ada, kan. Pasal diorang semua educationism, right? They talk about it, they tell you why it's important to read, why it's important to explore, you get me? So eventually I became a nerd. I became still a nerd. just not so bad. But I'm still in it, lah. So that's why I adored him. I fell in love with him. I was like, my God, man, this is crack. So to me, the most important thing that Steve kind of taught in terms of music business was always keep your publishing, for example, right? He'll always say like learn. So nowadays his mantras is about feeling every note, like letting it have a postcode, right? Pushing the boundaries in terms of technology when it comes to the guitar, right? So yeah, I think that recent years, if you notice, like these days, I try my level best not to play very fast, or don't try and think about flashiness, right? And I try and play 1-2 notes. It's actually I'm trying to sing it and like trying to whatever I can verbalize here should be verbalized fast enough on the instrument, kind of thing. You get me? That's I think he has drastically, right, because like keeping the guitar business live, coming out with new products, right, with the whole synergy amp, like evolving, and what he did for which got like guitar players on the whole, like he's got the whole noise foundation that's helping musicians outside and stuff like that. I'm into recording these days because of him also, learning how. So I guess where you mean by improvement, because like Steve is always going to sound like Steve Vai, right? Steve Vai is always going to sound like Steve Vai. AC/DC is always going to sound like AC/DC, right? Metallica is always going to sound like Metallica because they got their own voice, right? But I feel it's always constantly pushing the boundaries up. You know what I mean?